when we talk about gifts, we are really talking about those innate and developed abilities that we all have. In week 3, we heard a bit from Niall Johnston about the gift of the stars. And that is one way that I know for myself and other people in my community, the way we think about gifts and the way we think about each person as having a special gift or a special skill to contribute to their community. And so every person in our community is sacred. Every person in our community is special, and they have value, and they have something to offer everyone else. And that's what we really want you to think about in terms of your own gifts. What are those things that you can do? And it might be difficult to think of those things in the moment, but to recognize that, those gifts that we have, they aren't ours to hold all to ourselves. Those gifts that we have are to share with our families, to share with our communities, to share with the rest of the world. And so we need to start thinking about, what are those gifts? And sometimes we need to do some work in order to get those gifts to a place where we can share them. But we all have something to share and contribute to our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in so many ways it can be really challenging to share our gifts. And I think some of us might not always be able to admit or acknowledge or even see the gifts that we have within ourselves, because we might be blocking those gifts and only sometimes seeing maybe the things about ourselves that we don't love, that are maybe our imperfections, and we all have imperfections. And I think we can love the things that are not perfect about ourselves, but we can also start to learn to love the things that are great about ourselves. And when I think about the people around me, and I think about even Niki, I think I can so easily see all of your gifts every day that I work with you and every day that I spend time with you. But then when I think of myself, sometimes it can be challenging to see those gifts within myself and to openly acknowledge them or openly talk to others about the gifts that I see in myself, because I don't want to seem like I'm coming off as overly confident or I want to stay humble. But I think we can be humble and love ourselves and be confident in ourselves as well. And so as much as it's easy for me to acknowledge that you are a great singer, you have so many talents, you're the director of this program, of this project, and I think that those are incredible gifts, but I can also start to acknowledge the gifts within myself and love myself in that way.
Because you're great.
Thanks. And we talk a lot on this team and in this program about honoring the gifts that we have and honoring those gifts and sharing those gifts with each other. And one thing I really love about this team is that we highlight each other's skills and we focus on those strengths that we have, but we also try to bring each other up and work on the things that maybe aren't so great right now and try to acknowledge those as well. And I think that adds so much value to each other and to ourselves. So as much as we're honoring our own gifts, it's also part of the journey to acknowledge each other's gifts and help each other to acknowledge the gifts that you see in one another.
I think as well, when we think about gifts, we often see people who we think are really good at something. I see Lauren and I think she's really great at working with people. She's really great at connecting with people. And then sometimes that makes me feel like, oh, I'm not good at that thing. And you can't be good at everything, but you can practice. And I think when we think about gifts, it's not something that you just can do. Some of it you can do. Some of it you're just naturally good at. But some of it takes work. And just like when we were talking in week 2 about our values, I'm glad that you talked about humility. That teaching of humility sometimes makes us think that we can't say that we're good at something or that we can't claim to be an expert on something. And for sure, that teaching of humility teaches us that we are never the expert on anything. But it also means that there's an opportunity to constantly keep learning. Every day is an opportunity to keep working at those gifts. Even if you are good at something, how could you be better tomorrow? And especially when, you're a younger person, oftentimes the older people in your life might diminish those capacities. They might, tell you, well, that's not really worth doing, or you're not really that good at that, or someone else is always going to be better than you. And those are all true statements maybe, but every day is an opportunity for us to prioritize and to be able to develop our gifts so that we can just be happy in who we are now and not happy in that future sense of I'm going to be an expert one day. Because to be honest, we're not an expert. In this physical realm, nobody's an expert. We're all learners. We're all learning from creation. We're all learning from each other and the experiences that we have. And we never know it all. But we can keep working at it. And we can use that ability of that choice to practice something so that we can share it with other people.
So if you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you have something that you've been holding on to that you want to try, maybe you want to be a lawyer, maybe you want to be an artist, maybe you want to be the next leader in your community, you can be all of those things. Share it with somebody, share it with a friend, share it with your parents, share it with your cousin, whoever you'd like to. Even share it with yourself. Sometimes sharing it with yourself is the first step in even just acknowledging it and making that step forward to acknowledging the gifts that you have and starting to reach those goals and overcome the fears that you have inside.